David Grossman with that report. Well, join me now with their ideas for growth. Alistair Heath, the editor of City AM, James Meadway, the senior economist from the New Economics Foundation, and Julie Mayer, the chief executive of investment group for Ariadne Capital. Thanks all to you for coming in. And Alistair, if those differences, as David's exposed, are really so small, what kind of radical plans would properly kickstart the economy from your perspective?
I think it needs really fresh thinking, big stuff to really kickstart the economy. The economy is asleep and needs to be awakened, and by that I mean the private sector. So for example, infrastructure spending. It's not good enough just to try and spend £1 or £2 billion. You need to bring in tens of billions of pounds of investment from all over the world. Housing. Let's build a new city, a new town. 200,000 new homes.
Who's doing the building? Who's doing
the private
the
sector? Crucially, this has to be about bringing in private sector finance. There's a lot of money around in the world economy, in sovereign wealth funds, in the Middle East, and so on and so forth.
This needs to be attracted. I mean, that was the ideal scenario for the government, wasn't it, to get the private sector to do all the spending in the building? They're not.
That was a theory, but they've done nothing about it. They've not changed the regulation, they've not changed the red tape, and they've not created schemes to attract global investment. These huge pension funds, for example, have got hundreds of billions of pounds to invest. They need to be brought in.
Wait, you're saying you change red tape and suddenly everyone starts investing and building?
Oh, I say yes. I say you do that and you incentivise them to come, they will build, they'll create jobs.
James Meadway.
Well, on that, no, I'd have to disagree pretty much entirely. I think it hopelessly mischaracterises the kind of recession that we're in at the moment, which is a recession of demand. It's a collapse in demand from consumers, from households, a collapse in demand particularly from private investment, which has shrunk by 40 billion or more since the recession started, and it's now being added to by the attempt by government to shrink its own spending in the economy.
So you need to do quite the reverse.
Well, the alternative would be to simply reverse everything that this coalition government is now doing. When you're in a recession, we've known this since the 1930s, you don't cut government spending, you increase government spending. You get out there and you make sure that you lead businesses by the nose if necessary. You get out there and you create the kind of economy that you want to live in.
And we end up like a South European basket case.
No, you don't end up like a South European basket case, because I think what you have to do is target the spending that you want. You think about the kind of economy that you want to create, you say we want green jobs, we want sustainable employment, and you go out there and you make those things happen.
And that's all done with government debt, by borrowing more.
It can be done through borrowing, it can be done through, in particular, mobilising, I think, the resources of the nationalised banks that we do have. The Royal Bank of Scotland, for example, could be used, it's now on a fairly sound capital basis, could be used to invest in this way. You could turn the Green Investment Bank into an actual bank that can make loans.
If we lose economic credibility, if our bond markets go through the roof, that's not a worry to you?
It's not a worry to me at the moment, because I think the signal you're getting from the markets is that there's chaos and bedlam everywhere else. Britain looks like a safe haven, it's cheap for us to borrow.
by comparison to all the places that are on the verge of bankruptcy.
On the verge of bankruptcy, if you're Greece, perhaps if you're in southern Europe, but Britain is a big, stable economy. It has a significant public debt at the moment, but it's not historically especially significant, and it's not internationally especially significant. The problem here is one of growth, not on the debt side, but on the growth side.
Julie Mayer, and you are trying practically to create a business in this environment where we know there's virtually no growth. Which side would you come down?
Not only with Ariadne Capital, but we support another 20 or so businesses, and I really believe that society needs to be organised around the entrepreneur. So there's not one type of business. You've got established businesses, mature, and then you've got young, fast-growing SMEs. And as Nesta, the Innovations Agency, has proven repeatedly, 6% of all UK businesses create 54% of the all-new jobs. 6% are considered high growth. So small business, fast-growing business is not a niche activity. It is economic policy. So what we should do is give a holiday on PAYE national insurance to those SMEs and watch them take off. Get large corporates, international multinationals like Google, for example, to pay more tax because they make an enormous amount of money in this country and don't contribute to the tax.
Alistair Heath, I mean, that sounds pretty rational, doesn't it? You've got an enormous company like Google. It should be paying more than its weight in tax.
The way to get more tax receipts is to get more companies to come to the UK. The way to do that is to make the UK the centre for all investments, for all companies and so on. That's the kind of stuff we need to do. We need to incentivise companies to come here. I don't agree with you. I think if we did the sorts of policies you advocate, there'd be an immediate debt crisis and there'd be huge problems for the UK economy. I think we need to cut back on public spending, reduce the size of the state and incentivise the private sector, unleash the private sector.
Look at what's happening in southern Europe, where you attack public spending, you make your debt crisis worse, and that mechanism is starting to kick in right right now.
No, in Southern
this
Europe,
country.
there's too much debt, too much spending. That's what there's also in this country. The only difference is we've still got sterling and we've got a lot of QE going on. That's why the debt markets are still okay.
So you're saying there's no difference? There's
no, of
actually
course, there's a
difference.
massive difference in terms of, we've got our own currency and so on. But otherwise, our own debt position is very bad, including private sector debt, which is way too high.
Can I suggest one way to cut public services is if we created a radically transparent public services in government, and every expense, every salary that the government or any public service that was put online, and shining a spotlight on things like that would create a natural shrinkage. Whenever you put scrutiny on something, nobody spends.
I mean, they're pretty
not
transparent.
doing it. They are
You're not going to save that much money just by putting stuff online.
People do not spend. They do not spend other people's money.
Private sector pay at the moment. The
Because
figures out from ONS this week.
The
figures out from ONS, and this is tax money that we're missing out on
James,
by not chasing up private sector.
Do you think Labour? I mean, you saw
end.
the report there. Do you think Labour is being radical enough? Do you think
not even remotely? No. The difference between the two parties is, as the report said, essentially wafer thin at this point in time. It would be much better to have a Labour government or a Labour Party that came out with the kind of stuff that Ed Balls was at least hinting at last year, which is saying actually we do need to be quite radical about this. We need to understand the macroeconomics of the situation rather than kind of flap about chasing after international corporations and trying to tweak tax regimes here and there.
I say the exact opposite of you, of course.
demand.
And I say the same for the current coalition. I think they're not doing enough. They need to do much, much more. They need to be much more radical. You want more green things. I want fewer green laws. I think the green tide's gone too far. For example, all this carbon reduction stuff has gone too far. This was a kind of boom time policy when we were rich, when we thought jobs were easier to come.
We're still rich. We're still rich.
No, we're not. We're getting poorer.
Rich. No. It's quite clear that some people in this country are very definitely getting richer at this point.
Most people in this country are
What would you
getting
do
much
with
poorer.
taxes? Let's talk about taxes. What would you do there?
Well, for starters, abolish the 50p tax rate because that's not going to bring in any money. Then I'll do exactly what Julie was saying. I'll do a national insurance holiday for smaller firms, cut national insurance contributions, incentivise them to hire. If you cut the cost of hiring
What about minimum
people,
wage?
I would regionalise it. That's what I would do. I'd make it different in different regions so that supply and demand could be balanced out. What's happening at the moment is people are being frozen out of the labour market and companies are worried to hire.
Absolutely. And I believe that people that can pay a lot of that, let's get a lot of tax from the very wealthy. You don't do that by increasing the percentage. You drop the percentage to get the absolute amount of tax revenue high. And they can do a study if they like to, but most people realize if you drop the 50 to 40%, the overall tax revenue would go up. And these people should pay. There's no reason why they shouldn't. But it's a symbolic gesture to say
it may be against every philosophical bone in your body, but practically it could be the right way to increase growth.
I don't believe the evidence is there to sustain the idea. I think it's been discredited largely since the 1980s
by
cutting taxes on, particularly the very marginal kind of cuts that we're talking about here, that this will kind of unleash entrepreneurship, that everyone will come flooding back to the country as a result of a drop in this tax rate.
We're actually in 2 weeks with a good
just
lawyer, you can change your country, you can change your nationality. So if you don't believe that people who create wealth can change their citizenship in 2 weeks with a good lawyer, then you're not living in the same world that I see that all the
KPMG this
time.
morning had a survey out saying the tax rate has made no difference to the hiring of senior managers.
This shows really, I mean, the constraints that a government works in, because none of these ideas are something that you could actually take to your electorate.
I think a lot of ideas can be taken to the electorate. For example, we need more airports in this country, so we need to build them very, very quickly.
What about your ideas for employer rights, though? Employee rights?
Well, I think the government's doing some of the right things there. What's really is I'm more concerned about the rights of the unemployed to be able to get opportunities to get back into the workforce, and I think that's where we need to change things.
Last word on this. I think if we start chasing after supply-side solutions, we're chasing entirely the wrong direction. This is a demand-side recession. You increase demand, that means increasing spending and doing it intelligently, so you build the kind of economy you want, a green, sustainable economy for the future.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.